Welcome to the DMF. I'm Justin Younts. This is All the Parts Together. I have an award-winning filmmaker who directs, writes, produces, and understands finance. His film EFC has won over 30 awards, including the Best Feature Film and Best Director at the Palladino de Oro International Sports Film Festival. Please welcome to the DMF, Jaze Bordeaux. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Justin. It's nice to be here with you. I know this has been a while in the making,
Yeah,
so I've been looking forward to this conversation today.
this should be fun. So, first thing I want to ask you is, where did you grow up?
I'm based in Canada right now, in Toronto, and I am Canadian, but I actually did grow up in the States, right?
Yeah.
Spent the I mean, we did move around a lot, but I'd say my early days was in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And then we moved to New Jersey, a few different parts of New Jersey. Then we were down in Florida. And then, as you grow up as an adult, I was out on the West Coast for a while in LA for a bit there before ultimately, life brought me back home, I guess, right?
Yeah.
To Canada, which was strange because I never felt like I was at home in the States. So every time I'd leave the country, I'd be like, I wonder where I'm supposed to be. I just don't feel like it's here. But it never really lined up until I think I saw Die Hard, was it? I was watching Die Hard one day and they had a scene in Nova Scotia. And I'm like, oh my God, my passport. Yes, I'm Canadian, right?
Oh, so Die Hard with a Vengeance. Yeah, yeah. I
Yes.
know the scene you're talking about where he sees
Yeah.
the bottle on the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
so even because you moved around a lot, but like, how long were you actually in Canada originally growing up?
I think that obviously my parents split, so I might have been there for a year
So you
as a
only a year
baby.
in, but you
Yeah,
always felt
only
like
I
that was
was
the
when I
home.
was I didn't know that. It's just
Yeah.
in the States, I just something always felt slightly off, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't think I know I'm here. I'm just not sure this is where I'm supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And it was always something in like the back of my mind, like I but then you ask the question, well, if this you're not supposed to be here, where are you supposed to be, right? That would be the next logical question I would ask myself, and I never had an answer for it. And it just never had occurred to me. And I think after 9/11, things had changed or tightened up a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so I was also having some issues down there with my status, they said, which was whatever it was. And but then yeah, I saw Die Hard and it clicked. I'm like, oh my God, the answer was right in front of me all this time, right?
Just like in
Just
the
had
movie.
to look at my passport and it was like that was the answer, right? But there was a time for everything. So
Yeah.
I do appreciate my time down there in the States, and I'm happy I had that experience because that's why I love Americans. Grew up
Yeah.
with them, brothers, whatever you want to call it, and uh, the hustle mindset mentality. I think I definitely got that down there,
What
which I
would you
do
say?
appreciate. You
What
know,
would you say the difference between the Canadian and the American in just general terms? Because we don't have time to go into all of it.
how, how about I give you this example? Let's
There
just
you
look
go.
at let's take the actors for example, right?
Okay.
I can sit in my office and I can tell you I get so many emails and direct solicitations from actors or whoever it is, and 100% of the time they're American.
Mhm.
I don't get that from, for example, Canadians, and I've had this discussion with our team, and it's really just the mindset.
Yeah.
Um, uh, y- in terms of the thinking, and I think it's a great example. Um, I find on your side of the border, a lot of the actors are definitely making their own opportunities. They're aggressive enough to reach out. Um, you know, they'll find the opportunities before anybody knows about it because it's just like the mindset. It's just that kind of hustle the way it is. The mindset here isn't quite like that. No one wants to really reach too much to offend anybody or disrupt protocols. Um, a little bit more polite. It's just part of the culture. Whereas I find on where you are, people have no problems disrupting protocols and you know, rewriting the narrative and you know, doing what they have to do to get to the next place. So both have their pros and cons, and I guess together we balance each other out.
Mm,
If you want to look at it like that, but yeah, there is the hustle down there. Is not saying it doesn't exist here. It does. It's
yeah,
just at a different level down there, right?
interesting. So
And
that
and
rebellious spirit of the American.
yes, yeah, yeah. Protocols, we'll just rewrite it. You know.
Yeah. How did like because going, being in the States, being in Canada, how did that shape you? Because you had all these because you it wasn't just like one part of the States. It was New York, New Jersey, Florida, the West Coast. They all have their different kind of flavors. So
Yeah. What I do appreciate about North America in general is we have a diverse mix of people, races, cultures, everything. Like you can go through North America and probably run into maybe a good majority of the cultures that exist in the world, right?
mm,
I think I'm not going to say they're all represented here, but a vast majority are represented. All I mean, even just in Toronto, right? It's a true multicultural city, um, so being able to move through North America, I feel like the biggest thing I had was the exposure to all the different cultures, races, and people from around the world. So it doesn't matter if East Asian, South Asian, you know, Northern African, whatever it is, if they're from South America, I feel like there's so much diverse exposure, and I feel like that really shaped me a lot. Just being able to have that exposure to all these different cultures and people, and it helps to also expand your mindset when you have that, right? And even open up different ways of thinking that maybe you wouldn't have if you were just limited to one thing or one place or whatever that might be, right?
yeah,
So that's the one thing I would say about North America and what I've picked up just having the privilege to just travel around over the years and obviously there are some parts where maybe may not be as diverse, but that's fine too.
yeah,
Because you're just meeting people and they're meeting you and there's this exchange going on, right?
yeah,
And you know, so that'd be my biggest appreciation for being here in North America, right? Is how diverse we are.
so more
um,
diversity.
yeah, and which is why sometimes things don't make sense. It's like we're a diverse group, and we do get along, right? Like there's you know, I know people, for example, and from Iran, and they're from Israel, and they're like best friends, or they're couple. You know what I mean? All of that other stuff doesn't really exist, you know, kind of at our level, and I don't know how much we appreciate it.
Mm,
I think if more people traveled more, you definitely appreciate what we have here. Once you take all the noise out of it, right? So
that's a good point.
yeah.
Now, it's interesting because you come from a business and finance background. Where is that something that you were always interested in, or is that something you were really good at? What specifically is your degree?
I will say that yes, I was always interested in this because to my earliest memory, I feel like I was always interested in betting on myself, right?
Mm,
And so I never wanted to leave it up to another company, somebody else, whatever the case might be. So my earliest, I mean, I'm thinking like I remember myself playing in the basement in New Jersey with whatever ca- cardboard cutouts I was doing, making buildings and offices and stuff like that. So I do feel as though I came out, or like I don't think there was ever really another thought. Now there are moments when that concept maybe was clearer to me than others, or manifested better than others. But I feel as though that was always going to be the path that I was going to go down, where I would write my own story, kind of bet on myself, and let the cards fall however they were going to fall. Right. I
yeah.
don't know if there was another path to that. You know.
So what? But like, what degree do you have? I'm just curious.
So my background was in finance, as you
Mm,
said,
mm-hmm.
and I had a bachelor in business. I Yeah, and even before that, I got into the finance world very early on. So I had like the fortunate privilege to be sponsored by one of the big investment banks that don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I think they were credited for the collapse in '08, but we don't have to go there. I wasn't around for that. And but yeah, and then from there you just kind of just forged my own ways. And we talk about entrepreneurship. There were a lot of different arenas that I was involved in before, from not just entertainment, but other ventures, even to manufacturing, right? A lot of things didn't work out.
Yeah.
Some did, most didn't, as with life, but a lot of lessons learned, a lot of leadership principles I think I learned through a lot of the pathways I took. And all of those skills really you just keep applying to the next step forward, right? Ultimately, when I got into this space, I knew this was the space that I would be locked in for like a really long period of time, right?
Yeah.
So it was one where you would put your heels down and you just, no matter what it was, you're going to just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about this space of film is that every project is literally a startup project. It's
Yeah.
like a new company. Like so if we're working on a slate of 10 films, we're literally starting up 10 new companies, right?
Would you
um
would you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
yes, definitely an entrepreneur. And I often like to tell people, yes, I'm a filmmaker, but I'm really in the business of filmmaking, right?
Mm,
Because you have to be.
yeah.
If you don't treat it like a business, it's ultimately just a hobby, and the hobby will get you. I guess if it's a hobby and you're just doing it for fun, then that's fine.
Yeah.
However, there's still other things you need to do in life, right?
Yeah.
But in the business of film, this is what I'm doing every single day, right?
Yeah. Is
Um,
is there a certain entrepreneur that you're inspired by?
I mean, I look at guys like, it's interesting because I feel like there is a division, and I definitely lean towards a lot of the older school entrepreneurs, like the Richard Bransons. I
Yeah.
get them.
Same here.
Um, yeah, uh, today I think there's a different meaning for that word.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than maybe the older school guys, but yeah, if I had to point to one guy, he was always somebody I looked at a lot, just because of his ability to diversify and kind of spread out his interest, and just being able to move that whole group of companies he was a part of inch by inch, inch by inch, inch by one step, one step. They've tried ventures too, even at their stage of the game that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
But I could see they were always trying to evolve and not just do that, but also take. I feel like one of the reasons I point him out, he also takes a lot of the things that I guess were learned, resources that were acquired or accumulated, and tries to pay it forward, right,
Yeah. I think
to
that's one
the
of the
world.
things that's
Yeah.
interesting about him is how much he gives back, you know. What I wanted to ask, because coming from a background in finance, how do you think that helps you in film?
So in the business of filmmaking, it's everything. And it's not really something, it might have been something I took for granted a little bit until I started talking to other filmmakers, other producers, and trying to help them out with what they're doing, because a lot of and I don't know if our audience right now, if there's producers or filmmakers listening, but a common thing sometimes I'll hear from, and I heard this from somebody recently. I went to this workshop about producing and all of this stuff, and they were a little disappointed. And I said, "Well, why are you disappointed?" Because, well, I wanted to understand, like where do you get the money to do this stuff, right? And you didn't get the answers. And so I said to him, I said, "Well, you're asking the wrong question, because if somebody came to you right now and offered you a check, are you even ready to receive it?" So, so before you can even get there, you gotta, what's the structure that you're gonna build around
Yeah.
this, the business structure,
Right.
right?
What
That
are you
you're
gonna
gonna,
do with it? This is
yeah, what,
if we just give you $1 billion or, 10 million, do you know how to use that money well? You know,
use it
budget.
well. What's the financing plan behind it? What's how does the return get paid back? And there's a whole artwork to just the structure of these things, right? And I feel as though it's one of the things that's never spoken about, but it is the area that you spend a lot of time with in terms of a story development. If you look at the life cycle and you look at the development, the financing plan, it's probably takes a good chunk um, of the life of that film, right?
Yeah.
Again, the production, boom, it's like you could blink. You shot the film, it's done, you're in post, right?
Yeah.
The work getting there is the biggest amount of work, and obviously you got to have a plan to get there, and the plan usually revolves around the finances to actually make this thing. But before you can even start to ask that question, there's still so many other things you got to do before it, right? In terms of again, and a lot of, if you look at Elon Musk or these startup companies, they have to do the same thing. Okay, what's our product? Who's our market? How much is it going to cost to make the product? How much is it going to cost to get it to the market? Factor in all these things. Are we actually able to make money? How long will it take to make money? All these factors you have to plan for ahead of time. Not that it's going to work out exactly as you plan, but there's, a framework. And then once you figure that out, it's kind of like, okay, now I know exactly what I need. And based on what I need, this is where I need to go to get the money, right? Is it a bank? Is it a private investor? Is it a what? I mean, there's just, it's like getting a mortgage on a house. A lot of different types of mortgages, right?
Yeah.
A lot of different types of mortgage lenders. Which one are you going to go to? Um, you're going to have to break down your situation and figure out where exactly you stand and all the various components, and then you figure out where to go, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these things I just kind of took for granted. I just assumed this is what everybody does. And I realized over the years, not so much, right?
Mhm.
Um, Not so much at all. And then just even with, and not saying it's not done, but I mean, I've seen some things that I just thought were a given, right?
Yeah.
You,
Budgeting.
you know, yeah,
Balancing a
budgeting,
budget and not and
yeah,
realizing that a lot of people don't know how to do that, and they just show up and it's like, "Oh, wait, we spent that money. We don't have any more money. We're and we're out." And that
yeah.
happens more often than people realize.
Well, and even sometimes in the independent world, I'll see filmmakers hurrying up to just go and shoot the film and get it done, and then they can't deliver it with a clean chain of title. And then, we've talked to people, and they're like, "Well, what is that?" Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, all right,
Yeah, yeah. So,
okay."
when you were learning this, is this stuff that you relied on from schooling, from being a from being in business, or is this something that you just continued to learn? Was there a book that you were inspired by, or
These were things that I had to continually learn
Mhm.
just through my, various ventures, various, mistakes happen. Well, why did this project not work? Oh, okay, this is what we could have done differently, right? In terms of structuring it, or whatever the case may be. I don't know if there's one. I know there's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of guidelines, but I feel as though my experience was definitely firsthand.
Okay.
That's why I feel like I got to the point where I'm methodical about things. You think about things, for example, on a film production, like from development, from the first concept of the idea, we're already building the chain of title, right? So it's very definitive by the time we get to the end. We're, already copywriting stuff. We're organizing it administratively so that the story is an actual IP. It's an actual intellectual property that you can build. Essentially, you are building a company around it.
Yeah.
And that's why I say they're all like startup companies, right? So you follow the steps and don't take, the shortcuts. So by the time you get to the end of the line, it's just, it's less work at the end, right?
What would you
But
what would you say to filmmakers that are starting out? What advice would you give them from that standpoint of financing films?
Well, one, it's okay to take your time. But I just sometimes there's this, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's FOMO. People think they're going to miss out on something and they need to get their story out first.
Yeah.
And like there's this rush, we got to do it next weekend, and they will bootstrap and whatever that needs to get done to get it done. But I would encourage them, it's okay, and just say it's okay to take your time, right? Because sometimes these ideas, these stories, these intangible things, they're sitting with you for so long, and they do deserve sometimes the right treatment to get birthed into the world. So it's okay to take the time. People do take time to develop the story because they absolutely have to. It's a non-negotiable, but it's okay to take your time to figure out the right structure to put around the story to get the resources you need to do it right. If let's say if you only had one shot at it, you're going to take the best possible shot that you can take, right? So I tell them it's okay to take your time. Before you start worrying about where's the money, who has the money, who can I call, you really have to be prepared for them, and you got to be prepared for the questions, and you got to be prepared to actually receive those resources, right? So that's why I said it's okay to take your time, right? Sometimes you may not get a second crack at it.
What are some of the questions are these just financial questions, would you say, that they're being asked?
Well, it's funny because during TIFF, there were a few people I was approached by at different events, and they're talking to me, filmmakers from wherever they were from. I don't know, but there was something I really, really realized, and I said, I've probably had about two or three people approach me, and they immediately started pitching me their project. Okay, no problem. but I realized they did not know how to pitch their project. One, because they just kept talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking to the point where when they were done, I didn't even know what the project was or what the story was.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I noticed there was no specific ask.
Yeah.
So there's this pitch, and which I didn't, okay, that's one
Just
thing that
help me,
needs to be
man.
worked.
Help
Yeah.
me. You know, I've
I
come
mean,
with hat in hand, and it
yeah,
just do it. It's like, well, what do you?
yeah.
And your question is, what specifically do you want us to help? Is the finance? What do you want? And they're just like, no, here's it is. Get it.
Yeah, just they came at me with a few pitches, and I asked, "What's your specific ask?" And for the three people I'm thinking about, they didn't know.
So what is your
They
next
just
question after that to them?
uh, so I said, "Well, okay, well, maybe you think about it and you know how to get in touch with me, right?" And but it was very interesting because they're making a pitch, but they weren't sure what they were asking for. And if they were asking for development money, I don't think they knew or knew how much they needed. So they're doing this film and they've got a story, but they don't have,
Yeah.
the stuff around a story. So then I'm thinking, well, that's me, and they're going to go and talk to a lot of people during TIFF, and they're going to meet a lot of people, and they could very well meet the one person that could do something, but it's not going to happen like this,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I said it's okay to take your time, build a package. So when you do make that little pitch, you can also know exactly what you're asking for, right? And what you're going to give in return for it. And it's
Yeah.
very like the specifics are there. You know what I mean?
Like, like, have you consulted with like a line producer? Like, if you have the script already, do you know how much this is going to cost instead of just coming to you and saying, listen, I've got this great, it's great, this best movie. I don't know if you've ever
Yes.
seen the movie The Player. There's this part where they just come to me, no Hollywood, nobody here. We're going to have no stars or whatever. And we're just, he's like looking at him like, how are we going to sell it? And,
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing that's happening to you. It's like, it's the greatest movie you've ever heard. It's a great idea. And it's like, what are you asking? Yeah, we can agree that
Yeah.
it's a good idea, but you need to give me some kind of, do you have any specifics of like how much money you need? If, like you said, if it's in development, do you have a script? Is it, where are we at? Are we looking at post production? And they didn't know. Would you
Yeah.
would you use that time to this, it's TIFF, so this time is of the essence, but would you give any of those people the time to explain to them, like, their mistake, or do you think it's not your place to give that?
When people ask, and people have asked me, right? And I have taken time to explain that to them. During those types of events at TIFFs, it's really tough. And it's just there's a lot going on. There's people you need to see and stuff like that. But I always tell them, feel free to reach out. And I'm always
Yeah,
glad to help if I can, whether it be
sure.
advice or whatever. And if they follow up, that's great. If not, that's fine too, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think now more than ever, I think there was a time in the industry where you could do stuff on spec, and that was only really limited to even certain people too. You just pitch an idea. Okay, well, here's money. Let's like, can you get me a script in 2 weeks? And then all of a sudden you get development money or whatever.
yeah,
That time I think has come and gone, especially when you see what Paramount just did. They new owners come in, they want to consolidate. First thing they do, what was the first thing they did? Buy the UFC, right?
yeah,
They're very interested in sports right now. And a lot of those guys want stuff that are put together.
yeah,
Like come to us when it's put together and you already lined up whatever you need to line up, right? So different era we're in right now. So, you know,
when
go
you've
ahead.
got
Yeah.
like like that spec script, like, that can work, but I think it needs to work if it's coming from in-house of the studio.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
they're gonna cover everything and it's gonna be this thing, like you said, if you're coming to them to pitch that, it's just come in with the spec script, and
Yeah.
that's all we've got is a script. Piggybacking off of what we've just talked about, one of the things that I've noticed is I want to ask you this: how would you improve the industry from a budget standpoint? Because we look at films like Godzilla minus one, which was made for I believe like 110 million, and then you got like Fantastic Four, which is made for like 200 million. Then you add in the advertising, that's another 200 million. But it doesn't really look better than Godzilla like minus one. Why is it that this movie made in Japan is able to cut costs lower than we are here? Do you have an answer for that, or is that
To be honest with you, over here, I think we need to be.
mm,
It's a frame of mind that we gotta watch out for or look at because we have the resources are out there.
yeah,
And I really believe if you look at a film, you create the budget, you do it diligently. You're not just like making up stuff. Like you go through the line by line. And if it legitimately is going to cost $100 million to make this film, and you could back it up, that's just what it costs to make the film, right?
mm,
The resources are out there. So for me, I want to look at it more like especially for us as we're going into our future slate of films, it's more about the quality and what you're putting out there, right?
yeah,
And are you telling a good story? Are you putting a good product out there? In North America, it's interesting because obviously our rates are high.
mm,
New York, Chicago, very expensive cities to shoot in. You have tax credit funding and stuff like that. But when you go out to Asia right now, they're trying to change the landscape. There's countries out there that are essentially telling productions, hey, come shoot in our country and we will give you 40% of your budget up front, not after you're done. We'll give it to you up front. There's a lot of incentives over there where industries in certain countries are getting subsidized, and I know we get the finger pointed at us here in Canada too because we kind of
yeah.
like like perfected that system. That's why all the American productions are here. It's cheaper for them to make a film here than it is in the states.
Why
Um,
is that? Is it just there's just too much red tape to get through? Is it just like why have they not noticed that this is what these countries are doing? Why aren't we trying the same thing?
so if you look at Canada, there's a cohesive body put together of different organizations that work together.
Mm,
When you look at the states, there's no one like I know you have like the unions like SAG, right?
yeah,
But over here, you have various agencies, financing, government, unions. They all work together
interesting.
to advance like the industry here, right? Collectively, they may argue with each other, they may bicker, but they do work together, right?
Yeah.
Um, and in the States, you don't have that. There's like no one unifying body. It's pretty much every state's on their own doing their own thing.
It's a very good
Uh,
point.
you don't really have the federal support there either. So it's kind of like every state for themselves, right? And whatever they're going to do is what they're going to do. And it could be better than what we do here or worse. I know Georgia essentially, I think,
Yeah.
cloned what we're doing here and made it work for them. I know they were very strategic. They had a long-term plan. It's been interesting to see them execute that and bring it to pass. But for the most part, Georgia does whatever they're doing with no federal assistance or anything like that, or cohesiveness with any of the other states. They're just doing
Mm,
their own thing, just like New Mexico, just like Texas, just like California. And I think in that mindset, it's kind of where some of the setbacks are coming in.
mm.
Um, versus these other countries in Asia or even here in Canada, right? Um, if there was ever like a unifying force
Yeah.
in the states, uh, yeah, I think you'd get everything back, right?
That's interesting. I really I love going back to like the budgets and how they're kind of becoming bloated. What do you think is causing these budgets to become this bloated? Is it just too many people on staff? Do you think they're not? I don't know. We none of us know as we can't really look at the books, but
Yeah,
what is your
it
guess?
it it is a little bit hard to say without looking at the production, right? And yes, there's obviously productions where budgets are bloated, and you wonder how could that be. But to be honest with you, if you look at filmmaking, especially the past few years, with just how much the cost of money has increased, right?
Yeah,
A dollar is not a dollar anymore from what it was pre-pandemic. It's probably $2 or maybe three by now, right?
yeah,
So the cost of everything has gone up. Okay, a lot of the equipment and technology may have come down a bit,
mm.
but rates, actor rates, union rates, all of that stuff, it's all like,
So
it's human
related to
capital.
inflation.
Yeah, it's human capital you're really paying for, right?
Yeah,
And I know that's why the AI stuff is scary, because obviously it's something I don't think it's going to take away. I think it's gonna
mm,
help the industry overall. But
mm,
I understand why people are a little bit afraid, because it's like, oh, well, we're going to lose human capital because of this thing, right?
yeah.
Um, so if you want to look at why it's more expensive, let's say in the states than it is in other countries,
No,
uh,
no, I would add to
yeah,
that because I mean they're filming in they're filming in Georgia, they're filming in the volume screen. I mean they're cutting costs wherever they're, but for some reason there's still just these bloated budgets and like they don't even end up being great films either. That's why I used Godzilla minus one as an example, as this film that like came out of nowhere. But you look at the special effects, you look at what they're doing, it looks like a better put together film. And here we are here putting all this money into it. Example of that is like a Thor: Love and Thunder. You look at that; it was a 200 million. And the reason I bring up the bloated budget is because they cost so much now. If they don't make that money, like if they don't make almost $1 billion, it's almost seen as a loss. Is
yeah,
there that's kind of where I'm coming from. But I like
yeah.
what you're saying that the other countries are giving them the
Yeah, and that question, it's so loaded too, because again, you factor in hyperinflation, you factor in just the cost here alone. Sometimes, and you don't know. It's interesting to look at the numbers after the fact, because you don't know. For example, like a Disney and Marvel,
yeah,
they book these releases. Oh, we have this film coming out on July 26, 2026, and all of a sudden they're getting close to the release date. The movie's not finished. So
yeah,
they're putting pressure on VFX companies, the overtime, but now everybody's working overtime, and the numbers are going crazy, and you know what I mean? So there's so many factors. So I'm careful with that one,
yeah,
in terms of it. And I know people wonder, well, how did that cost $100 million to make, or two
yeah,
hundred million to make? And then it's like, there's a lot more to it than
yeah,
maybe just straight production costs. You don't know how many days went into overtime. You don't, the union dues and fees and fringe benefits and this, it just keeps compounding and compounding, right?
right,
That's why a lot of the American productions look outside. um, oh, hey, we have our currency. If we exchange the rate, for example, in Canada, it takes us a little bit further. But at the same time, we can also get these tax credits, and it could help discount the production by 30% or whatever. And
yeah,
so they're factoring all these different ways to try to, I think, keep the budgets down. But let's just, be honest, like, it's just human capital, manpower, it costs, right?
yeah.
It's not it's not cheap, and rightfully so, right?
Well, you brought up a very good point. It's like, the release date is coming and the movie isn't finished and they're like trying to rush the film into production. Do you think it would be better to just as you said at the beginning, be patient and just maybe move the release date up, or or put it,
You would think
push it
so,
back.
but
I'm sorry.
you would think so, but then with some of those big companies, it ends up costing them more money.
I know.
It's just it's a kind of a dirty dog cycle,
Yeah.
um, and they're trying to forecast their returns and trying to schedule certain dates so the other
Yeah.
guys don't get their times and and all these things, and they got to
Yeah.
structure marketing and promotion that happens way before that, because a lot of that's built on like when the film's being released. So
Yeah.
there's just so many
Well,
factors, and
with Marvel, used to have like they didn't present it like that, but it's basically their corporate marketing plan of like, this is phase one, this is phase two, this is where we're going and everything. And like, if it, like, if you said, if it, they push it back, then it pushes it into this movie. And it's like, or this movie hasn't come out yet. So this thing doesn't, like, they're all supposed to like kind of work together as this like cogs in a machine. But anyways, I love what you said. Moving away from, because I would talk a little bit about something that you've talked about in other podcasts, which is going outside the system. Talk a little bit about that, because you were going to do a Netflix type service, and that you decided against that. Where Talk a little bit
yeah.
about that.
So you see, maybe that's a little bit of the rebellion in me from growing up in the States, but I still have it there. And yeah, so the main thing you'll see, like for example, in Canada versus the States, for example, there is like a system here. There is a structure that does support a lot of filmmakers and people in that field, but it is a system and it is a structure. And as with all system, there's an entry point, there's a process you go through, and more processes.
Yeah.
After a while, essentially you get to hopefully where it is you're trying to go, right? And it's the same in the UK as well. Um, but for our last project, and I think just for our overall vision, it's something that had to operate outside the system. um, just because you can look within the system, there might be certain narratives they want to promote, or certain types of things they want to do. So if whatever you're doing doesn't fit into that context, you're immediately outside the circle, right?
Mm,
So a film like EFC didn't really fit the context um, uh, of maybe what the system was looking for at the time, right? So
yeah.
I knew we were going to have no support for that, which is fine because for us, we have a completely different plan in and of ourselves. So everything we did essentially just kind of just did on our own accord and almost did it the opposite of the way everybody does here, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to say it without getting all these technical little like
No,
details.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But from one of the things I listened to, you were talking about how you had this Netflix type service, but you decided that like it would have been that these guys are going to galvanize each, they're going to go after
Yes.
each other, and you were like, let's just step back.
Yes. Yeah. So when I first started exploring the film industry, and I had the opportunity through networks and people I knew just to be able to get on a lot of sets, I looked at the entire process. I looked to see how filmmaking was done first, and then I looked outside of it, and I said, "Oh, okay." The biggest problem here that maybe I wasn't even looking at the big studios because they typically have distribution built in
Yeah.
before anything happens. But when you look at the independent space, because at the time I'm looking around the world, there's all these great indie films coming out of like Europe. When you go to these film festivals, all these interesting art house films, there's so much stuff that was like out there that maybe isn't really accessible by wider audiences, right? And so I said, well, the biggest hole I could see here in that independent world space is distribution. And back then in 2010, 2009, I'm like, this is such a great opportunity because Netflix literally built their house on independent films, distributing DVDs
Yeah.
in the mail. I was one of those guys that ordered from them, right? But they did literally build their house on independent films, like these odd films you'd see from Sweden or something, right? And but now all of a sudden, I remember it was an era where Google Video was online and YouTube was just surfacing.
Mm.
And then I remember when Google purchased YouTube, that was like, boom, this is it. This is the future right now. We're
Yeah.
obviously moving in a direction where watching movies, content, streaming stuff online is going to be like it.
Mm.
So I said, this method of distribution is going to could potentially have a very wide reach in terms of audience. I know there's going to be issues, but I thought independent filmmakers would have more of the opportunity because they wouldn't be restricted by territories and
Yeah.
rights. They could have an online platform and reach a global market. And the only thing is, back then there was no infrastructure for that, and so we had focused a lot on creating the tech that could compress files to the point where you could just watch a half HD movie without it buffering
Mm.
um, too much, and you can actually get through it on like I think a lot of people were still even using dial up back then, right? And so we went through the process to develop this, and we
Yeah.
did as best as we could. Um, it's just it got to the point where you could clearly see the investment that was needed.
Yeah.
Uh, Even if we had all the money in the world, it wouldn't have been enough because you needed the entirety of everything to upgrade. You needed faster, like the DSL type service, internet service that people were starting to move into, right?
Yeah.
You needed the high speed stuff, and just the infrastructure was not there at the time.
Okay.
But the big guys were investing in it. Google, Amazon, you name it, Oracle, they were investing into the hard infrastructure with unlimited resources. The Netflixes, we're starting to also see the vision too, as well, and it was very clear that there was going to be a mad rush for this space, right?
Yeah.
And I back then we always said, well, come about 2021, that'd be right about the right time, 10 years, give or take or so.
So we're talking 2011. That-
2000, yeah, 10, 11, so right around 2021, probably that's where it's just going to go boom. And a lot of people are going to get like weeded out along the way. There'll be maybe a few big platforms that everybody's using because it's impossible to have 20 platforms where you're
And that's
paying, you
and
know.
that's kind of what and that's exactly what has happened. Is they've
Yeah.
kind of they're we're seeing them all kind of just like eat each other up. Did you ever
Yeah.
think about going to them and like partnering with like a Netflix? Well, Netflix I think was like the first one to do like the kind of what the on-demand service that we all now know from like Hulu and Disney Plus. But like I think Netflix was like really the first one that really like brought that convenience to it. Did you ever think about going to one of them and introducing some of your ideas to it, or did you kind of want to be independent from a Netflix or even a Google? Say?
So I do feel as though I always wanted to be independent, but I'll tell you a very interesting story because back then to test, we wanted to test out some things. So we made a short film, and but mostly, really, what we wanted to do with this short film was build an event around it
Mhm.
and stream the event live, and just
Yeah.
to see how live with these codexes that we built would they work doing a live stream, and can they handle the traffic,
Yeah.
and can we get through something like this? So we ran this big experiment where we made this short. It was, I think, 2010. We were out in Vancouver at the time, and we streamed it online, like the event around it. Obviously, it was early days. We wanted to target a very specific group, like the college age kind of group of people, because they were the ones online watching YouTube and Google Video.
Yeah.
And so we tried it. Uh, for all intents and purposes, even though the entirety of the thing crashed, it was a success because it was just, there was so many people like trying to see it that the entire thing crashed, right?
How long did it take for it to crash?
I remember it was something after the first 10 minutes. It
That's what I
couldn't,
thought.
so it was a
Yeah.
success in the degree there was so much interest that
Yeah.
crashed the site. Uh, you know,
That's good. So that's
uh,
good. So you saw the
uh,
interest, but yeah.
and but but I was contacted after that back then, by a few studios, and I was brought in, and one of the questions, which I was completely not prepared for, and I was asked a few questions. They asked me. They said, "Well, this is very interesting what you're trying to do. So, what do you think, like in the future?" Because they asked me very specific questions. They said, "What do you think in the future if you have a film that has $100 million production budget, 30%, 20-30% P&A? What do you think that would do online? Like, what kind of returns you see that with?" And then the next questions were like, how do you handle digital rights management? And how do you, and it was a string of questions that I was completely not
Oh
prepared
man.
for. Right. And I had no idea
This reminds
how
me of
to
the
really
Social
respond
Network
to that. Yeah.
when he's brought into the board or whatever after crashing their server or whatever, and they're like, "Yes, tell us how to, what's gonna, yeah, what are our returns
Yeah.
gonna be on this?" It's like, well, we don't really know yet because we can only estimate because
Yeah.
this is just one system. But
Yeah.
wow, that's
Yeah.
that's great that they
Yeah.
trusted you enough to ask you something
I,
there because they saw that you saw the future.
Uh, I didn't have the answers, but the one thing I did realize in some of those meetings that I had never taken into account was the one thing that kept coming up was digital rights management. How do you solve for the,
Yeah.
who has what rights and piracy and this? That was the major, I think, hesitation from anybody doing anything back then. Obviously, nowadays Netflix has like really locked their stuff. All the platforms have everything really locked down in a really good way. There's still piracy out there, of course,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think eventually we're going to get to the point where there's no reason to pirate any content, um,
Hopefully,
because
I
yeah,
think the problem, the reason piracy still kind of exists is because there's still things out there that they just haven't released. Like you have like Star Wars, you have people still want to watch the unaltered versions, not the version that they released in '96, where they changed the stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons why piracy still kind of exists because there's things that like either rights fees they can't get it, or things of that nature. That's kind of where I've seen like piracy kind of going out. I just watched a video with somebody talking about how this movie's on Netflix, and the only way to watch it is on Netflix. Like they didn't do a Blu-ray release of that, but there's a piracy
yeah,
of that. So I think that one of the reasons is they're not really meeting that demand, but can they meet that demand because of the rights fees? So I think that's one of first, I would read the comments there, and a lot of people would say, "Well, if it's out there, I'll buy it." But if it's not out there, then I'm gonna go for the piracy right because there's no
yeah,
option to get it. So I think that that's I think that you're
yeah,
you're right. Like it will all kind of end up there, but we're also seeing that they'll pull things. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, there's no guarantee that, like, even if you buy a digital copy of a movie, there's no there's no laws really guaranteeing that you can that this is yours and that they can't pull this or take this away. And I think that's why physical is starting to kind of make somewhat of a comeback. I wouldn't say it's lucrative like it once was, but I would say it's, it's like a niche market that's starting the same way like the records, started coming
Yeah.
out, or albums. The Wow, I sound so old. I don't know what to
Oh
call
no,
it.
no, we still have we still have a bunch of albums we collect, but
Oh, really? Oh,
you're
wow.
you're you're right because essentially, if you go buy a movie on a platform, I know they say you own it, but you kind of have a license to watch it. I
That's
feel
that's
like
what you're buying. You're
anytime
buying
you
a
want.
license.
But if they ever lose the license or the rights, that platform to your area or territory, then yeah, it'll just disappear. All of a sudden, you don't have it. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
written somewhere in those disclaimers when you actually click purchase, which
yeah,
I always felt like might be a little deceiving. Because let's say, for example, Netflix took over the rights of a particular property for the US, but it's only for 10, they have a 10-year deal. And at the end of the 10 years, let's say you would think that maybe, uh, the content owner, whoever, studios, whatever, would just renew the deal.
yeah.
Maybe they're like, nah, don't want to do it anymore. Right. And
And
then all of a sudden your stuff will disappear.
yeah,
So
we're
just,
seeing that with video games as well. Like the rights, like you said, they get 10 years and then it goes away. Or Grand Theft Auto, they license music for this amount of years, and now they're coming back to re-release it, and they don't want to go back to the table because now it's this huge game, where they gotta probably pay, Guns N' Roses, I don't know how much they want for it to be used in the game. So it's like, I think now they'll be a little bit more cognizant of that, of like, this maybe if we don't do this, it'll roll over or something like that, as
yeah,
opposed to just letting it just like cancel, and that we gotta go back to the table and be like, "Okay, how much do you want for this? How much do you want this
yeah,
just to do the re-release?"
yeah. It's funny you say albums because the other day I literally had this thought. You know what? I woke up. I'm gonna go and find the albums to all the scores of all the films I like, plus whatever else Hans Zimmer has out there because I like all his work.
Yeah,
And just to have them,
yeah.
I just want to like have
Oh,
want to be
the physical
yeah,
copy.
the physical
Oh,
copies, yeah,
wow. Okay.
not just have it on digital music space. I actually want the physical
Yeah,
copies, right? So
yeah,
I think if there's something you really really like and it's something you'll go back to and you want to go back to, yeah, you might as well just own it.
yeah,
It's going to take one stupid thing to happen in the world. I don't know what it's going to be, but you
yeah,
can almost, it's almost writing is on the wall. Like it's going to happen. I don't know where, when, how, whatever. It's going to be some one stupid thing that just like that, all of a
yeah,
sudden it's disappeared from everybody's library for whatever reason because rights weren't renewed or being whatever they're going to say about it, and people getting into an uproar. Well,
yeah,
we're just going to buy our stuff now, and we're just going to go buy Blu-rays again, and all of a sudden you'll see Amazon trending Blu-ray players.
yeah.
It's like,
I think if they want to prevent that, what they could start doing is start looking into more ways to say you actually own this, like giving you like iTunes used to give you like a physical copy, like a physical file that you would
yes,
have.
yeah,
I think something like that where you have it. Maybe you have to pay a little bit more. I mean, that's probably what they'll do is be like, okay, you can have this license here, but then you're going to have to pay for this. Because I don't see how else they, because like you said, otherwise they're going to go straight back to physical media. The problem with the physical media is it's just
It's encumbersome.
it's
Yeah.
cumbersome. We've become like, when I'm in New York, I'm like, I can't keep buying, Blu-rays, and since I don't have space to keep putting, all this physical media. So what I think they could maybe do is like maybe do something where like, you got the physical media, but there's some way you can put it onto the set top so you have both maybe. So you have like the both best of both worlds, almost like
Y-
you're creating your own on demand. Oh wow, there you go. There's
y-
there's the new idea.
Yeah.
Create your own, like you are able to make your own Netflix or something. Like I've always wanted them to do something like where you have like the Netflix, like they have like the channels where like
Yeah.
Repairman has like a South Park channel where they just show old episodes on a continuous loop. And I feel like
Yeah.
that something like that would be interesting where like you could put a couple of movies on and just have them run on a continuous loop or add to that, like kind of creating your own program. I don't know. That's kind of
Uh,
where I see it. But
I think,
yeah,
I think, and I shouldn't say this because I have to go back and look at it.
yeah.
I feel like I'm hesitant to say it just in case I'm off about it, but the Plex is out there as a platform, and I
Mhm.
feel like I think they may allow you to do something to that degree. It's been a while since I've looked at it, right?
Yeah,
Um, so I think we're gonna be there sooner than you think,
that would
right?
be cool. I mean,
Yeah,
because there's that time where you used to have to buy like you'd have to buy it on iTunes, but then if you wanted it on Amazon, you'd have that, and they've kind of created a thing where now like I mean, some of the studios don't do it. I don't know why, but like they have the unlimited where it'll show up on, the Google movies and everything. So you're not having to buy the movie, 15 different times to put it on a different platform.
on a
That
different platform. Yeah,
exactly. So all right, so now moving on, let's move on to more of the filmmaking style of stuff. Now, from what you talked about, you got to go on film sets. Was that kind of like your film school in some ways?
it was. If you want to talk about making films,
Yeah.
I would definitely say it was. And okay with the right mindset, right?
Mhm.
It's amazing if you go onto these things just curious and wanting to learn and understand, like I did. Talk to all the departments as much as I could. Observe. It's I mean, after a year of that, I think from the filmmaking standpoint, I understood how a set was run,
So
right? And
talk
okay.
for those that like want that would want to do that, go about that. How would they go? Like, who would they call? What would they do to go about?
So, film students, I always encourage them when they're leaving film school. I said, look, the best thing you can do is get on any set by any means necessary. If you've got to volunteer, if yeah, sometimes maybe crash it and volunteer, but whatever you got to do, just get on a bunch of sets. So it could be a situation where, for example, what was I going to say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought slightly
Well, you were
because
talking
something's
about you were
yeah.
talking about students,
Yeah,
getting out of film
yeah,
school.
getting on set. So what I would
Yeah,
recommend is get on there by any means necessary, right?
yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you have to volunteer. Listen, when I went on some of these sets, I was surprised that somebody would come up to me and said, "Hey, we need you to fill out a form," and I'm like, "Why?" "Oh, well, you're gonna get paid." I'm like, "Really?" I didn't expect that, and I would go on for anything. Like it didn't matter if I was doing a photo double, if I was doing a background thing, if I was doing whatever it was,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I was 14th AD on whatever production, and but I would go on anywhere, everywhere, small, big, music video, big production, whatever it was. I just went on. I just wanted to learn and understand it from all levels. So I've seen it from the bootstrap to the big productions.
Yeah.
And there's always something to learn, but the biggest thing I learned was how a set was run in the best conditions and the worst conditions, what everybody's role was, the departments and how they work together, and all the elements, everything you need to know as a director, right? The acting was something different. I think acting is underestimated in 2025. It's such an important job. And I feel like because there's a lot of famous people out there and they get thrown into stuff for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
that people think, oh, that could be me on screen. I could do that. And it's like,
Shall I add to that? Being an actor? Yeah. It's
yeah,
d Acting is a lot harder than what you think. You need to look at it more like being a doctor, because that's the amount of time you're gonna need to put into it to really to if you really wanna be great at it, because it's an all-day thing. You need to be working on something every day. You can't just casually do it. I went to conservatory. I went to another conservatory. I studied with this acting coach. I studied with that acting coach, and it takes a lot, because the thing that you want to have is to just be able to relax and be, especially with film. Film is all about just being relaxed on camera and going into it so that you're feeling it, because you don't want to bring in other things. You want the relaxation is going to allow you to go to where you need to go, whether it be crying, whether it be anger, where it's that. Because by being relaxed, you'll react to what's going on. You'll be able to, and it's I don't know. I think a lot of people watch, like you said, watch it on TV and go, "Oh, I could do that." And it's like some people innately can do that, but if you really want to understand what you're doing and know how you're doing it, that's going to take time, and then you've got to be able to take notes. Somebody's going to throw you and be like, a little bit here, and then you adjust to it. There's no time. You have to be prepared for almost everything. When I work on a film or anything, I'm reading it over and over and over again. I'm reading it in different voices, different languages. I'm taking it out of context and everything, so that I can, just dissect it as much as, like, where does it work? Where does it not work? It's not this like thing you just like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna show up and let's just act. It's like, there's the grunt work of it, memorizing lines and knowing it, because you don't want to be thinking about lines. You want it to just be like I'm talking to you right now.
yeah.
So yeah, sorry.
Listen, the work of an actor is one I really respect, and in the entire process, you could take a year and understand how a film set runs and all the departments and everything like that, and
Yeah.
maybe less just understanding that. But and even you can go into some of the other roles and understand that. But the the one of the actor, and like I said, I sometimes cringe when I hear people talk because they're like, oh, I could do. It's like, no, there's so much that goes into it, and I just feel like it's undervalued or underestimated. Me personally, if you gave me a choice in a film, if we can go bad production but great acting, I'm always going to pick the acting because I feel like
Yeah, you could do something with that.
the acting could still, even if everything's bad, it could still probably get you there,
You
right?
can, because yeah, if you've got great acting, you can, like, okay, well, zoom in closer so we don't see the rest of the
Yeah,
thing. I remember I did something and it looked awful. And I was just like, well, how could I make this better? And I turned it black and white so you couldn't see that it was like just a room. And changed some of the colors and added some B-roll to it. And it was like I showed it to my acting coach. He said, well, yeah, this would actually, this could actually maybe win go to a
yeah,
film festival. It's like, yeah, the only thing is I didn't tell the director.
yeah,
No, I can't really do that.
yeah,
But um, but yeah, no, I love what you're
yeah.
saying about, going out there and doing that. is there somewhere, like, specific that they should go to, or is it just, just hunt down festival
I mean,
production?
obviously, I guess it depends where you are. If you're in a film hub, especially like Toronto, obviously there's it. You know, you can go online, these
Yeah,
Facebook groups, various sites. You can find out people looking for stuff. So, like here, obviously, we're in a film hub, very active community. There's stuff going on, so it's really easy to get there. Obviously, in the States, you're going to have hubs too. And if you're in a place that's not a hub, you might have to figure out how to get into one of those hubs, right?
yeah,
But it's definitely, even if you're an actor that's spent a lot of time, again, like with you, there's still something about just getting that on-set experience, understanding how it works,
yeah,
the processes, the hierarchies, the departments, everybody works together, as much of that as you can get, I feel as though is really going to make a difference in like someone's career, right?
yeah,
Um, but yeah, if you're not in the hub, you're gonna have to, I guess, get
learn
to
that.
one,
Yeah.
right?
Go to film
Yeah,
commissions, you can
yeah,
look each state has a film commission. So
yeah.
look, find that. Um, what inspired you to get into film? I know, now we're going.
Well, and I always say I got a call from the universe, and literally it was somebody who was trying to finance a film slate somewhere in Western Canada, and that got me to explore and ask questions, and it made me curious because I'd never received a call like that or had questions thrown at me like that. Right? It was just brand new for me, essentially. And the more I explored it, I saw opportunities. I love the creativity. I think I've always been a little bit of a storyteller, or have had that
Yeah.
in me. And then one step to another step. And again, as an entrepreneur, you start to see opportunities. So then you start looking at content being king, and you recognize the future for that. And then obviously from there, I always saw myself directing. So I took steps towards that too, because I really, again, in the early days, watching actors on set, it was, um, that's why I said for me, I always have lots of respect for actors because I know the amount of work that needs to go, um, just preparation, just overall before you even go into a casting room, right? To get the role, to get the set, the amount of preparedness every week, and like e- even sometimes memory, just exercising that muscle every week, so it's just always ready, right? Because
Yeah.
you've always got to be ready. That's the thing. You just don't know when calls are coming or what's going to happen, so you always are in this state of
Ready to
readiness. And
go.
if you're not, it's it's crazy, right? So it's there's a dedication there, um that's like essential to it. So yeah, so I saw myself going there, and I took that journey as well. I wanted to understand the actor's process, so I did a lot of that training just so I knew what that path was like, right? And ultimately, you get to the point where you can communicate properly. Because the other thing I've noticed was directors and actors sometimes have a not so good way of communicating, or it falls short, and it's
Or you get over
yeah,
communication where
yes,
they're like almost it's almost like they're thinking of you like a puppet, and it's like this is an organic organism. You can't really,
yes, yeah,
it can't be if we could do it like that, but it's not gonna look good on film if you just want me to pause here at this line and pause here at this
yeah,
line and then
yeah,
do this, Like,
yeah,
an actor can usually take, like, 1 or 2 notes really well. If you start giving them more than, like,
yeah,
4 notes,
yes,
it's
yeah,
it's almost
yeah.
like
It's too much. Yeah,
the
it's
actor's
too.
just gonna
Yeah,
end up doing what they're gonna do,
yeah,
So it's like
yeah,
that specificity is there. So that's great that you were on set and
yeah.
you were able to recognize that. Because I was gonna ask you about that, like, how do you like to direct actors? But
I So I always describe myself as a bit of a collaborator. So I like to collaborate with actors because I know the amount of work that goes in just to prepare for the to get to the point where you can get the role and the amount of work you need to actually perform the role. And so the actor needs to breathe life into this character, and I don't really feel as though you need to interfere too much with that, because sometimes you're going to get what you're going to get, and that's perfect. That
Yeah,
is the perfect, that's the right thing, and
yeah,
that's exactly what it's supposed to be. And you can't be sometimes too set on seeing things a certain way. And the majority of the time, I see, okay, this character, and I obviously, as a director, you have the vision for the movie, you see the character in a certain way, but almost the majority of time, 9 out of 10 times, I'd say the actor brings something to that character, and sometimes it's an intangible thing, sometimes it's something, and it just sparks that life, and all of a sudden the character is a little bit different than what you thought, but it's better.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
And so I look for that, because sometimes I'm like, okay, boom, that's better. Okay, we can move in slightly in a different way,
yeah,
because this is good. This is better than anything maybe I saw or had envisioned for the, and that's, yeah. And again, for me, it's like all that training, all that time. It's like, just
yeah.
let them do the work, right? It's prepared for that
It's
moment,
it
and
was
yeah,
very much like that. That's like kinda how Christopher Nolan is. He likes to give the
yeah,
actor a lot of space to do it because, if you hire the right people, they're going to bring all these great things, and then it's just kind of, orchestrating the the right thing. You might need to move them in this direction or whatever, but like you said, they're gonna bring things that you didn't know. So, like, half the
yeah.
battle is really just the casting, because
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, you're right. And like I said, I just think it's just, let the actors work. There's so much
yeah,
preparedness that has to go into this. They've been preparing for a lifetime to
yeah.
do this thing. It's like, if you cast right, I have the confidence they're going to just hit it and hit the notes, so yeah, that's one part of the filmmaking process. I think. I mean, we're talking about it now. I'm not sure if I've really spoken about this
Mm.
this year on any interviews I've done, but it's definitely one of the big parts of filmmaking that I respect the most, and I really put a keen focus on it. A lot of directors are different. Some are very technical, and they're very focused on technical aspects of the production. But I really look at performances, right, when I'm in that chair, and I feel like that's the most, like, important,
Yeah.
element of the film. You can overcome any problems with good acting. You can have a perfectly shot film, but if the acting
Yeah,
sucks,
it's like,
then
what are you gonna yeah, what are you gonna do?
whew,
What can I
yeah.
say? Um, so that moves us into your let's call it your first larger film. How about that? Is that fair to
Yeah.
say?
The first
Um,
more notable, yeah.
Originally you were gonna call it Excelsis, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, it was originally supposed to be Excelsius Fighting Championship, but eventually it became EFC.
So
Yeah.
how did that, like, name change? Just from looking at, like, acronyms and stuff? Kinda wanted to
So so the inception of the idea, I think it was when I had the idea, it was a word that popped into my head, and I thought I mean, I think I looked something up, and it was about connecting with your higher self, something to that effect.
Interesting.
That was always what the meaning of the word was supposed to be. So during the development phases, that's what it was called, right?
Yeah.
And but once we got finished with production and we were planning out this big marketing campaign, the big issue we realized is people can't pronounce the name. They can't pronounce the word. And then as you start to look at it as a business,
Yeah.
this is going to be a complicated title to translate into foreign languages. So
That's very smart that you were able to
yeah,
recognize that you didn't get married to the title. Sometimes directors, they get married to like these names or whatever, and you are able to recognize this right. When I'm just looking at it, I was like, I don't
yeah.
know exactly how to say this. So that
Yeah,
was
well,
smart.
that's a problem in and of itself. And from a marketing standpoint, obviously we want to tag or associate with mixed martial arts. So when you
Yeah,
have the UFC, people see EFC, they're automatically making the tag or the association. It's going to be easy for foreign language. You don't
yeah.
really have to really do much to it, and it's very easy to remember.
Just when I
Uh,
see
you know,
Excelsius, I think
yeah,
like
it's
Excalibur.
complicated. Yeah,
I think
and yeah,
Excalibur,
yeah,
Knights,
yeah,
Excelsior, so it's like
yeah. It didn't it, but at the time, that's what popped into mind,
yeah, no,
and
no, I think
yeah,
it's good. It's just like from somebody that's not on the project, when I see it, I
yeah,
just gotta go, what is that? Where's
yeah,
EFC? I go right away. It's like UFC. It sounds
yeah.
so similar.
It, yeah. So I always try to tell people, stay away from complicated titles. If they
Yeah,
can't pronounce the name of the film, you're gonna have a big problem, right?
yeah.
So, yeah,
Come see this film. It's La Guardia de Mona del Sol. It's like,
yeah,
yes, I want to see La Guardia. It's
yeah,
like, what? What is
yeah,
that? What is that
yeah.
movie? Did you ever think about going? Did you ever want to partner with like the UFC or any of those, or did you just think that like you didn't want to deal with that?
I think we were definitely thinking about it because we had a marketing partnership that we were starting right before, literally the day before the pandemic happened, and it was with a local promotion here,
Mm,
MMA promotion. Out, they were a feeder system for the UFC, so we were
yeah,
going to be touring with them on different events they were doing, and hopefully using that as a template to pitch maybe one of the other promotions,
mm,
Invicta FC.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it just we had one event. It was literally the day before all the lockdowns happened, and even that day, it was kind of like something's going on in the world, and weren't even sure people. And then the next day, everything locked down. So that
yeah,
kind of got kiboshed a bit,
yeah,
and just over time, it just didn't things just didn't really play out like that so much in that regards. Plus, also EFC is the type of film. Also, it has. You feel like it's not just for like a mixed
yeah,
martial arts audience. It's it could be
yeah.
indie
I
fans,
don't know
drama
if you.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like it's like Roadhouse where it's like they're doing a bunch of fight. The fighting's in there, but
yeah.
it's more story based. So probably that's why I was asking. I was like, did you want that? Like I'm sure their publicity would have been good, but would it have been the right publicity? It's kind of the question I think to
Uh,
ask.
I mean, I guess all publicity is good. I mean, Halle Berry did it with Bruised.
Okay.
Obviously, and listen, for the UFC to partner with Halle Berry, big movie star.
Yeah.
It's like a win-win.
Yeah.
She was at the events with Cyborg and the women there, and they promoted it and with Netflix because it was out on Netflix, another big brand.
Yeah.
So I get it for the UFC. They like to associate with the big names and the big brands because that's the level where their
Yeah.
brand is. So that's what they want to do. So um, it made sense, and definitely her film was definitely like a fighter. Even though it explored a lot of themes, I called it a good drama movie because
Mhm.
fight fans didn't the feedback I got from fight fans, they were a little disappointed because there wasn't enough
Yeah.
fight action in it. But the feedback you get from drama movie fans is, they like that theme of
Yeah.
motherhood and that whole exploration. So two different audiences, even though you had that as the backdrops, responding to it in different ways, right?
It kind of
So
reminds me of like this that movie. I don't know if you saw The Iron Claw, which is
yes, I did. Yeah,
yeah.
I couldn't finish it though, but
You couldn't finish? Oh man, it's such a good.
yeah,
But if they had, like, partnered with, like, the WWE or something, it's like, it doesn't serve that audience because it's not it that's a film that
yes.
it has wrestling in it, but it's about a family dynamic that's really the core of the movie. So I could see them having the same reaction as they did with Cruz, being like, "Well, this is, this isn't exactly what I was sold." Like there were people
Yeah.
that were upset when the movie Drive came out because they marketed it like it was like gonna be a little bit like Fast and the Furious, and it's like it's nothing like that. It's
Yeah.
it's a it's a dark, gritty drama. Drive is like like yeah, he drives, but like it's I wouldn't call it a driving movie, you know. So like I think they tried to sue because they were
Yeah.
offended when they saw the movie. So it's like, you don't want that hassle of somebody coming and saying, "Well, I saw EFC and it didn't have,
Yeah.
it didn't have the fighting I wanted." It's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like, so
Yeah.
what can you do?
Yeah. Although with that film, because we had lost a third of the story, right? Because one of the actresses had gotten like sick. So obviously, when
No,
we're
I didn't know
shooting,
that.
having a pivot like almost every scene because you're adjusting, trying to compensate for, okay, we may not be able to come back and do this, do that, everything. And
Wow.
and so we were kind of adjusting for that, and then there was a moment where we got hit with these crazy snowstorms and the studio breaks down, and our time to shoot the fight scenes was also cut short. And there was a moment where it's like, okay, had to make a decision, and it wasn't a director decision, it was a producer decision, so I had to flip my hat on to
Yeah.
producer mode. And it's like, okay, we can chop down a lot of these fight scenes and then maybe try to amend or adapt and go back and shoot more story. Or we can try to get all the fight scenes done and we're going to have to sacrifice some story, right?
Yeah.
Just because, everything that we were faced with. And from that point, from a producer's hat, it's like, okay, when this film comes out, there's no way to get around the fact that it's a women's MMA film.
Yeah.
People will call it a women's mixed martial arts film. That's going to be the poster. People are going to expect to see MMA fights
Yeah.
with women in a cage, right? Because it is what it is. So at that point, I said, all right, well, from that perspective, from a marketing perspective, from future distributors' perspective, because they'd probably say, do not cut any action scenes, sacrifice stories, but do not get rid of action.
Mm.
And so at that point, we have to choose to try to get all the fight scenes done and
Wow.
sacrifice some stories, because on with the producer's hat, it's like, okay, well, this still needs to go to market.
Yeah.
And regardless of what we do or say, once it goes into distribution, they're going to market this and push this a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to do it as a women's mixed martial arts film, and it is. That's the backdrop of it, but it's so much more than that. But that was essentially, didn't want to have the film out there knowing that audience would be looking at this, having that expectations and not giving it to them, right?
Yeah.
So that was a decision there I remember having to make, and it was just,
No, but I
you
think
know,
you made the right decision based off
yeah,
what you're gonna do with the market. Can you
yeah.
talk about like where this idea came from?
It was it came around a time when women's mixed martial arts was getting huge, right? And Ronda Rousey was
Yeah.
becoming big. And looking at the sport, it was, we were looking at a film that we were going to launch with, or at least, again, which there was another film we were going to do that was not EFC. It was more connected to Bitcoin at the time. But when we're looking at the
Yeah.
scale of everything, it's like, there's a concept here that has not been done before that potentially has a built-in audience, right?
Yeah.
And there was a nice story already in the sense that if you look at all the sports drama films, obviously there hadn't been a women's mixed martial arts film done. It's relatively kind of a new sport. So there was nothing like that in the marketplace. right?
Yeah.
And if you looked at the top genre of movies, sports movies, they're all male centered, and those are the ones that made all the money. And I've always been an advocate of women in like non-traditional roles.
Yeah.
I don't, I think they could do more than just girls next door or whatever it is, or crazy psychopath.
Yeah.
So I've always been an advocate of that. And just looking at it, it's like, well, we have an opportunity to do something no one's done yet.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite exciting. And, you can almost trailblaze
Yeah.
a little bit. And even though it wasn't well received at first, because for that very reason, because it hadn't been done yet.
Really? It wasn't? What do you
And
mean by that? It wasn't?
uh, we were told, various people in distribution, women's mixed martial arts. They didn't think there'd be interest in that. People don't really want to see that, or women in these types of
So this
roles.
is
You know
before
what I
it's
mean?
even made.
It was before it was even
Oh,
made.
okay.
Before it was even made, I was already talking to distributors and what do you think a concept like this would do in a market? And,
Yeah.
just getting some feedback. And then we went in the market to get feedback. And then ultimately had to make a decision whether it's a viable thing to pursue or not, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was, but the initial feedback industry wise was like, mm, don't know, and that's partly why is because it hadn't been done before, and there was a
So we're
lot of
talking like 2016, 2017.
2016, yes,
Yeah.
and would it sell? Would it not sell? Is there even any interest in it? So we announced that we were gonna do it. I think in 2016 sometime.
Yeah.
In 2017, Halle Berry announced that she's going into production with Bruised to
Okay.
do a women's mixed martial arts film. And I was like, great. I hope it's like she's going to be first. I'm like, that's wonderful. She'll set
Yeah.
the path, maybe a little bit of a pathway for that and demand. And I'm like, I hope it does really well. Right. All it's going to do is help everything that comes out after her. So she came out. The film was a financial success,
Okay.
and it came out during the pandemic, I think, and it
Sounds like
came
it.
out on Netflix. Which I remember after it came out on Netflix, they did a deal with her for I don't know how many other pictures. So they must have liked whatever the numbers were, right?
Yeah.
And it's Halle Berry, so she's going to draw an audience every time, right?
Yeah.
And so now today it's interesting because I've been saying there's a lot more of these films coming out now, like with women's, um, in these combat sports roles, non-traditional roles, because Queen of the Ring. I,
Yeah.
I, I
I
guess
saw
you would have
that. That was a
seen
good film.
that. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
If,
that came out.
yeah, that
You
came
know,
out. It kind of came and went. It was kind of I saw it like the last day before it left the movie theater.
yeah,
It's more of a traditional movie as opposed to like, The Iron Claw where it's very, what drama's there, but it was really good. These are really good stories that they're telling, and
that
you're
they're
right.
telling now. Yeah,
You
well,
got the
yeah.
Christie one, I think that,
Yes,
Sydney Sweeney's doing. That's gonna
yes.
be good.
That one's coming out as well. And so now I'm starting to see this, and I always say, "Oh, we were right there at the beginning." So if we were ahead of that trend a little bit, kind of trailblaze, I'm really
Yeah,
happy about that. No matter what happens, at the end of the day, that we were actually able to like be on that wave. And I'm sure there's going to be more that come out after it, but it also proves that
yeah,
people want to see these stories and that there is a market for it. And the demand is there for it.
yeah. Now you win over 30 awards for this movie, including the Palladino d'Oro International Sports Film Festival. Talk about, the accolations that you got from doing this. This was kind of a labor of love. I mean, you did this during the pandemic. This was hard, it sounds like you had a lot of things working against you. So in order to make this work and to get, to see the feedback and see that, see the reception it's getting, because I've seen the film, it's a really good film. And seeing all the, the accolades. That's got to be humbling and just yeah. Tell me a little bit how you feel.
it it in all the planning with this movie and late nights and trying to get it done, and all the discussions I've had with it with my wife and Jason, who is our DP and editor, like so many late nights we're trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah,
I've always thought about the film, getting it completed, signing distribution, getting it into the market, audiences screening it, how would audiences respond, all of those things. I never actually thought about awards. It
yeah.
never really popped into my mind.
But that's what makes you
um
great because that's the way you should be looking at it. It's like you're not you're if you're doing it for the award, then it's I mean the fact that you already like I'm expecting nothing. I'm expecting to put this out in the marketplace for this to be good. Everything else is just great. Like in some
yeah,
ways.
yeah, it's just I just never thought about, considered it, just it just wasn't on my radar or scope. And then all of a sudden things started happening. I think it was there was what was it, our first event that we went to, I think, was locally, and it was Hollywood North Film Awards or something, and we were nominated for a few categories.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is nice. And then our our prosthetics makeup people won,
Okay.
obviously, that award. And it's like, oh my god, this is so great. The production had a couple of nominations and we won an award, and I thought that was great and left it at that. Right? Then
Yeah.
I think about it, and then the next month later, we were at another event in New York, I think International Film Awards, and then we won, I think it was like 14 awards, I think,
Yeah.
there, like best feature, best fight choreography, multiple stuff. I think best directorial debut too. I got
Yeah.
there as well, and then I started thinking, oh my god, I never actually. I think that was the moment where I'm like, wow, I never actually considered we would be recognized for our work on this, right?
And now we can call you an
Uh,
award-winning director. You know?
y- yeah,
You know,
and
you
you brought up the Palladino d'Oro International Sports Film Festival,
yeah. That was in
which
December.
that was in December. It's the oldest film festival, sports film festival, 44 years in the world.
Yeah.
And I remember I was there and I saw something with Michael Mann, I guess, won an award there in the 70s, right?
Wow.
A direct. I was like, really?
Wow.
It was just like one of those things. And but we went through there, and I didn't know what was going to happen there, and I just wasn't sure, right?
Yeah.
And there were so many films that were represented at the event, and so many people internationally from like all over the world. I think they had 140 titles, features, documentaries, shorts, whatever it was. And and then they do this big gala award in this old opera house. And even when we went there that night, I thought,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we might get nominated for some things, right? I wasn't sure. Like I
Yeah.
literally, I just because it's a little surreal, like,
Yeah.
oh, people actually, there's an audience that actually has received the film very well, so that from a director's chair is like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And to see like the actors having been acknowledged over the year for their performances from a director standpoint is great. I think I was more proud of that when I think Carly, our lead, had won a couple of awards along the way too
Yeah.
for her performance as lead, and some of the supporting actors had picked up some awards, which I was really proud of that because obviously I'm very focused on the acting, and I
Yeah.
wanted it to be really good in the film. But even that night, I figured we might be nominated for some things, and I thought it'd be nice if we were nominated for like best sports film, which is their top award, right?
Yeah.
And I says that would be pretty cool if we had just got nominated, right? And so the night went on. I think we were nominated for like 6 or 7 different categories. But the one that we won in just never really was one I never thought about, like best director, right?
Yeah.
It's so much so that they announced the award. I didn't even know what was going on. I was just like, oh, this is like, wow, look at this place. Like, there's so many people here. There's like 500 people here. Who are all these people, right?
Yeah.
Looking up in the stands, it's packed, and like, there's all kinds of stuff going on. And then they're doing this announcement, and I didn't even catch it. And then all these people are staring at me. My wife's tapping at me. I'm like, what's going on? What? And I'm like trying to give me the signal to, I'm like, what are you talking about? You just won the best director award. And I'm like, I did? Really? Oh, what do I do now? You got to go up there.
That's exactly how I see you. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's great. So what did that feel
And
like?
it was surreal, and
That's right.
and it was definitely a surreal experience, and I was a little bit disconnected from myself because I'm like, is this really happening? What is happening? I'm trying to like get to the stage, and then all of a sudden, oh shoot, I have to say something, right?
Yeah.
And
This
because didn't
giant
really
opera house with all these people here.
packed people in, and never thought about, oh wait a minute, if I win I should have like something prepared, right? I guess I just never actually thought about winning or
Yeah.
whatever. I just thought it'd be nice to be nominated for stuff. I figured, oh, maybe our actors are gonna win something, right?
Yeah.
And I think I told them, oh, you guys should be prepared, right? I just never thought about it from my standpoint.
You be prepared.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then I'm walking up there. Oh shoot! I actually got to say something. So I'm also thinking about, oh, what am I going to say up there, right? And get up on stage and just the formalities, the politeness, whatever I had to do. But then it took me a few days to just catch up with the moment
Yeah.
and just realize how significant and fortunate I was, that, in that moment to have that experience. And going back, looking at it on video has been great because, as I said, there was like this moment where it's like, you know, like it's like a Doctor Strange thing, when he gets like punched in the gut and his spirit leaves his body, and you're looking from the outside
Yeah.
in, and you're like, what is happening right now? And yeah,
Yeah.
all these things going on. But yeah, we were very, I was very fortunate to be presented that award by them. And again, being the oldest sports film festival in the world, and just the sheer amount of titles, I wouldn't have never thought there were so many various sports films that were made that year with
Yeah. But to win, I beat out
yeah,
all those other films. That's awesome.
it
That's
was,
so great.
yeah, it was amazing. So but yeah, that was quite the experience, right?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your short film, Starry Eyed, which for me personally is my favorite thing that you've done. Actually,
Wow,
I
okay.
really like Starry Eyed. I
Oh, really?
really,
Okay.
really like Starry. I like the way it's cut. I like all the colors. I like the way it's used. I like the story that you were telling. I just thought it was really unique. Could you talk a little bit about Starry Eyed? I know you probably weren't
Yeah.
expecting me to say that, but I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I
So
really I love it. I
so
have it on
start
on my
yeah.
phone.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
you're one of the first people to see it because it'll be out next year. It's going to
Okay.
start a festival run in 2026. So it's interesting hearing your feedback on
Yeah.
it outside the circle. Now,
Is
uh,
this okay to talk about that, or do you
oh
want to
yes, yes, yes,
okay,
yes.
okay,
So we can definitely talk
okay.
about it. The whole concept was from, so Carlo Molo, who this will be his directorial debut, was
Mhm.
also the writer behind it, and it was also a project that got a little bit challenged as well because the original story that he wrote was not what we ended up with. It was one of those that had to morph and
Really?
adapt. Like, for example, the role was initially a male lead,
Okay.
and we auditioned a lot of people for that role, but uh, obviously there you'll see two women there. The one with the auburn hair
Yeah.
came into audition, and she had done such a good job. All of a sudden, we started envisioning the whole concept a little bit differently,
Yeah.
and so as we discussed it and talked about it, that character, all of a sudden, it wasn't just like a switch; it morphed into a completely kind of different character. It wasn't just a gender thing. A lot of things changed along with that. Um, but that changed as a result of what we saw in an audition room, right?
Interesting.
Somebody coming into an audition room being so well prepared and just outperforming everybody else
All the
that
men, they didn't do
walked
anything.
into. We literally were like, oh shoot, do you mind reading this role? It was written for a guy, but you can put your own kind of interpretation on it, and she did, and literally went, yeah, circles around a lot of the guys we saw, right? But again, it speaks to preparedness, being prepared for stuff. um so it morphed a bit, and uh it it ends up becoming this story,
Yeah.
more about, we can reflect on. People are going to have different interpretations, so this is where I'm being
It's
a little bit careful
abstract.
here. Yeah,
It's very
it's quite
abstract.
abstract, very art housey. There's going to be different interpretations. Ultimately, it does come down to a self-love kind of issue, regardless of how it's interpreted. It's also a project that we wanted to provide an opportunity, because to some of the local film schools, because
Mhm.
they had graduating students. And the most difficult thing sometimes we also found with them, even though the final cut, a lot of people didn't make it in there. But sometimes with people graduating film school, that first credit really opens up a lot of doors, and it's hard to get there. So the set, as we were talking earlier, what do? Get on any set, um, by any means necessary. They all came on as volunteers to learn to see how a set was run, and kind of be in it. A lot of them did background. It was like real world experience for them, right? And so we incorporated a lot of that there, although you see like bits of it just because of the way it was cut and edited at the end. But essentially, this is a story I think Carlo was living with for a long time. Just had it on paper, wanted to tell, and had to morph and adapt and move with it and change, because in real, it was sometimes with stories, it's very interesting, and this is where you, as writers and directors, you got to be careful, because they will take their own form. It's like there's life that you breathe into it, and it's almost like you're a parent, and now your job is just to guide it, because it is taking its own form, and it's kind of telling you what it needs to be, and you just can't stifle it, right? And Starry Eyed was one of those that, once it had that bit of life breathed into it, it was dictating itself. It was, this is a story, this is going to be, right?
Yeah.
And adapt and conform to it. And it's going to be better than maybe what you thought it was going to be in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Were you
Um,
were you always planning to direct it with
I was supporting Carlo in his directorial debut, right?
okay.
So that's where my position was, not just on the producing side.
Okay.
And so I have done a lot of, or I have been doing a lot of that as well. Because, like I said, there's a lot of talent in Toronto, and there are um, other filmmakers that I do pass on a lot of my knowledge, experience, and support, and want to help elevate, and whatever I can do to pay things forward, right?
Yeah.
But initially, to answer your question, yeah, in the conversations, that's what was supposed to happen. I would have co-directed it with Carlo, but you know, film, as you've heard, director's medium. I wanted to support his debut.
Yeah.
right? His directorial debut on this. So
Okay. Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting. Now you have another film that's about to come out. Um, I don't know what we can say about it, but Let
yeah,
Go. Um, what can you tell people about this film? I've seen it. I like it.
yeah,
I really like the ending. But let's
yeah.
what do you want to talk about?
Let Go is it's an art house film, and it's a very much a European style art house film. Obviously, it takes place across Europe. I forgot how many countries are represented through there because it was literally shot in. It's part of the storyline. There's a road trip that happens across Europe, so so it was shot in various cities along there. But essentially, it's about in Let Go. We actually you're gonna see Alex Cruz and Carly Rose again. And for those who are listening, they might sound familiar because you just saw them in EFC. And it wasn't really planned like that. It just kind of worked out like that. Alex was always going to be the lead in that film. Obviously, Randy had him pegged as the director. Carly came in later into the picture,
Yeah.
but I like to tell people that with Carly, when I first met her, um, one of the because if you see her and you meet her in real life, she's a very nice person
Yeah.
and really really kind human being. And so I said to her, I said, you might have an issue because casting directors might look at you and be like, "Oh, you're such a nice person." And how could they ever really even consider her for certain types of roles, right? Going
Yeah.
back to non-traditional female roles. But when I saw her in like the most craziest um, types of roles, messy,
Yeah.
just downright like, so EFC brought out some messiness,
Mhm.
but when I saw her in Let Go, when I'm looking at the cuts and everything in the film, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally what I was seeing when I first met her, right? So
Yeah.
when I first met her, so the performances in there, I'm very proud of them too,
Yeah.
just because I felt like they went to places that, again, you got to put the work in because how do you get there if you're not putting those reps in, right?
Yeah.
Um, um, but not to stray too much. So we're going to see them in Let Go, and essentially Keon, which is the role that Alex plays, he goes back to Europe because for his whole life he's been questioning the disappearance of like the love of his life before he got married, and it's just something that stayed with him. He never knew what happened to her. He ends up going to Europe to kind of go on this journey that they were supposed to go on together. um, a lot of drugs get mixed up in this little trip here, and there's a lot of confusion as to who is who and who may be lying and who may not be lying, right? But essentially, it's a journey of self discovery because he's got to go deep to let go of a lot of unresolved, I would say, issues he has within himself, right?
Yeah.
And so Let Go takes you on one heck of a journey, right? Not just across Europe, but like an internal, like personal journey of discovery. So it's psychological thriller in the art house vein. I'm really proud of Ranny again, who directed this film.
Yeah.
I
It was
thought he
the
did.
cinematographer as well in this.
Yes, and another guy with multiple hats. He did an amazing job with it.
Yeah.
I think this will be like his kind of standout film as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're really really proud of him on that, and that'll be out in 2026 though, and
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
preparing that for a festival run as well. I think even if we get closer to the time, even you just talking with both of them, actually, I think
Yes,
you
I'd love to
have
have
a
you again.
lot in common
I'd love to do
from
that.
that perspective, right?
Yeah.
But for Alex and Alex, essentially, he is getting a lot of interesting roles right now.
Okay.
I know he has one upcoming this month on a Netflix project. I don't know if I can talk about it, but
Okay.
so I won't
The
say anything. But it's interesting for him coming off of again a film like EFC, um, where he was recognized for his work. Him and Carly,
yeah.
that also being commercially released. It's still being released in various markets. To immediately,
Yeah, you can
you know,
watch it
coming
on
to let
Tubi,
go.
and you can with EFC, you can watch it on Tubi, you can watch it
Yeah,
on Amazon Prime. Um,
yeah.
I bought it on I rented it on Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime. Yeah, in the US, pretty much it's available across all digital platforms.
Okay.
We're in Spain, we're on Prime, which
Okay.
apparently it's been one of our biggest markets right now. Surprisingly, the
Alright.
film was dubbed in Spanish, and it's available on Prime out there, and it's doing quite well apparently.
That's
So,
good. That's good
yeah,
news.
yeah.
Um, you also have, something in development called Genesis. Do you wanna talk at all about this?
Yes, I always say Genesis was the film I've always wanted to do. If don't do anything after that, I think I would have fulfilled my purpose or mission,
Okay.
other than aiding other filmmakers and directors. But if that was it, I would be quite. I think I would feel complete when it's done. Right.
Yeah.
It's another story I've been living with quite for some time, and it's been interesting. Again, I talk about stories taking their form and morphing.
Mm.
Um, this was one the first concept for Genesis was around original thought theory. Because if you look around, you wonder why aren't we, are we still capable of having original thoughts? Are we thinking original, or are we just looping and recycling everything that's been
Are we
said or
just in
done
a
before?
are we
Right?
just in a machine that, like, is the simulacra and simulation?
Yeah, it was tough to say, and then essentially that started to become a the story of what Genesis was going to be. And it was at first, again, it took 6 years to get like a production ready script, and a script where we're now about to pitch, big actors and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit longer,
Great.
but the initial reiteration of it was. It steered heavy on the philosophy side of things.
Mm.
And then there was a moment where that script took its own form. It had its own life, and it's hard to explain that intangible moment, but I know when it's happening, and I know not to interfere with the process. And then uh, the story morphed into something greater, because I'm calling it now. It's going to be the Matrix for the next generation. That type of a film that could stand that test of a time for that group of the generation behind us, right?
Yeah.
And essentially now we have Genesis, not so which still revolves around original thought theory, but we look at it as almost an economy of scale run by AI in terms of how original thoughts are being monetized. So now we go into more of what exactly is an original thought.
Yeah.
It's so much deeper. And the story that it morphed into is probably one of the most emotional, like, stories I think I've probably for sure ever written, but one of the most emotional screenplays I think I've read in the past few years, right? And it was interesting for me to sit back and read it, because I was writing it,
Yeah.
but I'm reading this like, oh my God, this is like really good, and it's so emotional. And it's like, but I remember writing it. I was literally writing it. I mean, my wife says, "Yeah, you're in some kind of a trance, and you're just kind of like just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
beast mode on it in some trance mode." And I'm like, Yeah, because I'm reading this and it's so good to me. It's like, but I remember writing this, but
Yeah.
I just keep turning the pages and it's like, wow, this is
Outside
like,
of yourself, having an out of body experience.
yeah, yeah, and that's always a good thing when that happens because you know that intangible, like it took life, and you're supporting its growth now. You're not stifling it in terms of where it's at, but it's a sci-fi thriller, and so it's along that lines. I would say if you think of The Arrival,
Mm.
in terms of how smart that was in terms of sci-fi, and if you look at the
What you're talking about Arrival, the one that, Denis
with
Villeneuve made
yes, yes,
with
correct.
because The Arrival is a
Was a
film
Charlie
with Charlie
Sheen,
Sheen, and I
yeah,
was just like, "Wait a minute, this
yeah,
movie?"
not
No,
that one,
I knew what
yeah,
you're talking about, but I just
yeah,
wanted to specify for everyone, like, not that Arrival.
yeah, not that Arrival.
There are a million.
Yeah,
That's the thing, it's frustrating. There's like 50 movies that all have like Arrival or something in it. It's
or
like,
The Arrival, or
oh yeah,
this, or
but
yeah,
yeah, but I know what you're talking
yeah,
about. I just wanted to clarify, but
yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, yeah,
the listeners, I don't want you to think that we're talking about the Charlie Sheen movie.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for clarifying that one. Yeah. um and yeah, that mixed with like the epicness of like Interstellar,
Yeah,
and that's where we're going with Genesis. And I think the reason I'm excited about it, I feel like it's going to be a timeless story, and I it's just hard to tell, or hard to calculate how to make these things that could be timeless, so I don't think about it. But when I look at the result of Genesis, I'm like, okay, this is going to be one of those that can stand the test of time. 20 years after, it's still going to be relevant in terms of story. Um, you put the right resources behind it, it should age well.
yeah.
And it's just gonna. I just feel like it's going to be one of those types of films for the next generation, and it may not even be the movie for this generation, but I
Mhm.
do think 20 years from now, it's going to be the movie for those people, right? Um,
I'll give
because
you
it's going
this
to be so
advice.
relevant. Yeah,
I'll give you this advice. Just tell the story that you want to tell.
yeah,
That's really the only thing you can do. If you do
yeah.
that, everything else should fall into
Fall
place.
into place. Yeah,
Well, we've talked a
yeah.
lot about a bunch of things. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we kind of get ready to close this up?
Anything else I'd like to add?
Yeah,
Ah, wow. I don't.
we've talked about marketing. We've talked about this. We could talk about, so me, one of the things that defines you is your the track meeting. If you want to talk about that.
Frame of mind. It's you really, I tell you what, you really have listened to a lot of my previous interviews and stuff like that. You know what? When I was younger in school, I remember trying out for basketball and not making the team. And I think I was so upset that that propelled me to go do something else. Right.
Hmm.
And I guess that's a constant theme in life. When something doesn't happen, you're propelled to do something else. And eventually, I think a few months later, I think I went out for the track team
Yeah.
for the sole reason because I didn't make the basketball team. So I needed to do that for myself. I don't know, to feel a certain way. And would you believe I tried out for the track and field team, and the coach is putting up all of who made the team, first cut, whatever, and I didn't make the team. I literally, I'm like, what is happening, right? And I don't know, it was out of character. I went to the coach and I said, "Hey," and I don't know where that came from, but I just, "Hey, my name's not on your list." And he's like, "Well, I picked a team." I'm like, "Are you sure?" So he pulls out his clipboard and he's going through his thing. He goes, "Do you want to run long distance?" I didn't even know what he was talking about. I'm like, sure, yeah. Does that mean I'm on the team? He goes, yeah. Okay, I got your name down for long distance. And he says, when you come, whatever next week, go find coach whoever, right?
Yeah.
So I showed up for, the track and field team because I was running long distance, whatever that was gonna. And I got there the first day, hated it. I said, oh my God. Second day, hated it. Third day, hated it. But I'm like, oh, do I keep going? I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'll keep trying. But obviously, it's a lot of, you got to, train your system to get into that, just build your cardio and all of that. So having never done it, doing it for the first time was hard. Right. And eventually stuck with it, kept doing it, stuck with it, did the training, showed up despite myself, whether I didn't like it, didn't like it. And we get to the first track meet and I won. And I was like, oh, okay. Second one, won. And I just kept winning at these races. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, maybe there's something here, right? I might be good at this. And then we finally get, as you would know in the States, there's like this county track meet where you bring all the schools together and everybody's running against each other. So whatever area or district I was representing that area or district. And they bust us out somewhere far. Like I couldn't even tell you right now, but it's not anywhere that I could have left on my own. And we get there and it was, I guess this was a moment that all these years, it still stays with me because I remember getting there and looking at these, not high school, we're talking eighth grade. So that's middle school, right?
Mhm.
Still middle school in the States. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't think I'm in the right place here. Everybody here looks like almost a college athlete. Like, I'm like, is this like what is happening right now? Because I don't look like I fit with these people. I'm like, well, maybe they're just running like the 200-meter sprint or, doing something like that.
Yeah.
And let me go see who's running long distance. And I go find these guys and I'm like, oh my God, they're even bigger than the other guys. Like their leg muscles jacked, they're tall, like
Yeah.
obviously they probably play football,
Oh, wow.
pure athletes, right? Like I'm just they
I
look like
guess.
pure athletes, yeah, from like, and I'm like, and you get into that and you start kind of convincing yourself you don't belong here. And it's like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Like, how am I supposed to deal with these guys or beat these guys? They're gonna just like this is like a futile situation right now. I'm like, I literally would have left. If I could have gone home, I would have I literally, not figuratively speaking, taken
Yeah.
my bag and walked off the field. But I had no choice. I was so far away. I don't think I even knew how to get home. Right. And I just psyched myself out the whole day. Like, oh my, why? Like, how did we get here? Like, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing the races happening, and then I see them run, and I'm like, wow, he just ran what? And
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, it comes time to do the 800 meters, the mile race, and you're nervous, and I'm thinking the best way to lose this thing without looking too bad, right? Because I thought this was going to be a losing proposition right now. And I'm like, how do I not
How do
make
I
it
lose
look?
gracefully?
Yes, that was what I thought. And so the race starts, and of course the guys, they just take off, and I'm in last place by maybe 200 meters, maybe a little bit more.
Mm.
I think it was more. And so with the 800 meters, you have to go around the track a few times. I can't remember. Is it twice?
Mm.
Can't remember right now the track. So um, I slowly started to catch up because obviously I'm like, okay, I can at least catch up to the last guy, right? At least,
Yeah.
like, I can do that. I got to do that. I got to get at least close to the last guy. The gap was too far apart. I was like, So I focused on that, and I caught up to the last guy, and the guy just in front of him, and literally, it was something as stupid as looking at the shoes that they were running with that just snapped my perspective or way of thinking, to the point where, wait a minute, and this is something obviously that stuck with me for life, and we're talking about it now, like I don't know how many years later, and I realized in that moment, oh, I have better shoes than him. And it was something as stupid as that to make me to like punch me almost in the gut to realize, and not that I realized it in that moment, it was just something that stupid that changed my perspective to all of a sudden, I think I could beat these guys. And as soon as that perspective changed, I inched on the next one and the next person and the next person to finally where just when we were getting to the 100-meter mark, I caught up with the guy that was leading the pack. And so for the last 100 meters, and he was much bigger guy than I was, very athletic, looked like a football player, right?
Yeah.
Like a college football player, not an eighth grade football player, like, you know.
Yeah.
And so we caught up. So I don't know how close everybody else was to us. I just know it was me and him.
Yeah.
And if we kept that pace, one of us was going to win. And we kept going. And I just gave it kind of my all. And I remember my coach's words. He goes, when you get to the finish line, don't slow down, run harder, run faster. Right. And so, and I carried that for the rest of my life, actually. And so I just kept pushing harder, 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 and I actually won. Believe it or not, all of that psyching myself out and looking at these people thinking they're so much better, so much stronger, more ability, more this, more that, more athletic, no chance. And all of a sudden, just a change of perspective, a change in the way I was thinking, and I won the race. And it didn't really hit me till much later in life what happened that day, and how important it is to have how our perspective and our frame of mind affects the outcome of everything that we're doing. Right. So when I saw myself losing, when I saw these people that were being better, that's exactly what was happening. But the moment I changed that perspective, the moment I changed my frame of mind, it went the other way. And so somewhere later in life, I remembered that day, and it was a lesson for me. I think somewhere in my 20s or 30s to, you know what, in everything I do, when you're getting challenged, you just have to change the perspective and just see things in a new way or a different way, because the outcome is going to be affected by how you're perceiving everything right now. So you got to be really, really careful. And even with like EFC, it was the same thing. I kept focused on, we're going to get this to market. This will get in
Yeah.
front of an audience. It will, we will get, even though all the odds are stacked against us, but I know that all of that's going to help us at the end. Right.
Yeah.
And
So I think the words you said on a previous podcast was comparison robs you of joy.
yes. And that was one of the other lessons, which is to never compare to others, because you don't know where they're coming from, where they're starting from, what their path was, what the situation is. All you can do when you do that is literally rob yourself of that joy. And ultimately, you're going to take yourself down the wrong path. So you
Or
can
you
never
notice that
compare.
they have worse shoes than you, and then
Yeah.
you realize, "Oh, I'm better."
Yeah.
No, I'm
It,
kidding.
if that helps change the perspective, then hey,
What
but it
whatever,
was
yeah.
just the dumbest thought that just, and it probably wasn't even true. It was just what I thought in the moment,
Yeah.
because I know from my shoes, I spent all this time trying to find these shoes and
Yeah.
ordering these things and then these spikes in it. And so they were
But it
special for
worked.
me, but
It
it
worked
worked.
because
Yeah.
it knocked you out of there.
Yeah.
Well, I absolutely love that story. So let's end on my this is my inside the actors studio questions. So These are quick, short answers. Do you have a beginning of the day routine?
Yeah, I usually wake up and I wake up more in meditation type mode
Okay.
before I do anything. So I'll have some meditation tracks before I even wake up out of bed, just to kind of set the tone, the energy for the day. I don't like waking up in chaos or like just adrenaline. I just
Same here.
yeah, just meditate on it, take the right tone, and then start the day. You know, you take it from there. Again, going from that lesson on a track field, perception, how you perceive it, perceive the day a certain way. That's the outcome you're going to get, right? So
Okay. Do you have a nighttime routine?
I actually do the same thing before I go to bed. I try to take it down through meditation and focus on having a restful sleep and waking up almost brand new. More just think about what I'm grateful for the day, what we were
Right.
able to accomplish. I try to keep those types of thoughts going to sleep, so I wake up also like that, and just try to stay in that zone, right?
We already answered this, but do you meditate? So I'm going to ask
Yeah.
you, what is your meditation practice?
It's simple for me. I do. People say, "Well, how can you be devoid of thought?" But I typically use a lot of guided meditation
Okay.
audio,
Anyone
because
specific?
um, I go all across the board. There's stuff I've bought. I On YouTube, I'll also use what's his name, Joe.
Joe Dispenza?
Yes,
I knew you were
I
going to
like
say
his.
that. See,
Yeah, I like
that
his
interesting
stuff.
when you,
Yeah,
we led you. I was like,
yeah,
just already telling me. I knew he
yeah.
was going to say
You You use
that.
him too? He has a
I
great
did.
voice for that.
So
Yeah.
I used him for a while. I mean, his are like 40 minutes. So they're
Yeah.
really long at times. So I did that for a while. The one that really helped me the most was transcendental meditation because
Mm,
that's they give you like a mantra and that helps. I love though what I learned from Joe Dispenza because he really challenges you to not look at the day as this set pattern, but look at it as you can change things. You can look at it in
yeah.
a different way. It's not set. It's almost like the
Yes. Yeah.
Terminator. The future
Yeah.
is not set. Um,
Yes.
so I love that. Yeah, I've I love Joe Dispenza. He's
Yeah.
somebody I would love to have on and talk to him about. What do you do for physical fitness?
Well, soon, believe it or not, you might find this irony, like
Let me hear.
in the coming days, I'm actually going to be starting like Taekwondo,
Oh
and
wow!
some people are like, "Wait a minute, did you
You gonna
do
be
any
the
martial arts before you made EFC?" I'm like, "No."
Are you gonna be there with a bunch of 12-year-olds? Me, you,
Uh,
and
uh,
12 year. It's like,
yeah.
I don't
Well,
like you.
they told me there'll be
No,
adults
I'm
there,
kidding.
but that's going to be my new.
That's
And
awesome.
I don't know. It could be coming as a result of obviously all EFC, the mixed martial arts we were looking at. But I don't know. It just felt like it was something that was calling me.
Then you
So
should do it, and that's
yeah,
that's the most important thing. Go
yeah.
where the calling is. What are you reading right now?
Um, Screenplays.
Okay,
Screenplays, because we are working on a slate for the next little while.
awesome.
So a lot of my reading has been screenplays, and there are some titles actually but I can't talk about them, that we're looking to option soon. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna stick with screenplays.
There we go.
Yeah.
Screenplays. What are you listening to? What kind of music do you
Uh,
like?
Music I listen to. If you look at my playlist, you'll see Hans Zimmer, Hans Zimmer, Hans Zimmer, Hans Zimmer, Hans Zimmer, and it keeps
Okay,
going all the way down. I listen to really movie scores,
same here.
and yeah, largely his work
Have
and
you ever
others
listened to the
similar.
score for the movie? Did you ever see the movie Shame with Michael Fassbender?
No, I haven't actually.
You ever
No.
watch It's really dark. It's really depressing at times, but it's really a well done film. It's done by Steve McQueen, who did 12 Years a Slave, um, Widows. He's a really good director. I would recommend watching the film, but the score is very powerful. It's
Okay.
Henry Gregor. I'm not sure exactly who it is, but um, you said Hans Zimmer. What's your favorite track of Hans Zimmer?
Oh, that one's a little bit of a tough one. It's a tough one. I've been really enjoying the work he did on Dune 2.
Okay,
Um, but I think I'll go back to maybe Gladiator
really, Gladiator.
for a
Okay,
bit because he had a couple of tracks there that
Elysium.
yeah, yes, and now you're free. They just never get old for
It's
me.
never
I
get old.
always enjoy listening to them.
Very powerful
Uh,
score.
yeah, so maybe I'd refer to that for now, but that could change later today, you know. So
Interesting. Are you listening to like the live tracks that he's recorded, or are you listening to the score from the film?
I actually like the live tracks. There's
Okay,
something.
they're
I
very
mean, I
good,
listen. Yeah, I listen to
versatile.
both. Yeah, but the live tracks. He's actually in concert in Toronto
You
here
gotta
this month.
go. You've got to
Yeah,
go
I
there.
know.
That's because that's your thing. You need to
Yeah,
see it.
I just hesitated because it's in a stadium, and I always wanted to go to his concert in one of those old European opera houses. But I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen now because his concerts are getting too popular. So
Yeah,
he doesn't even
go
tour
to
there anymore.
his go
You
to
know.
go to that
Yeah.
stadium. I have a feeling you should do that. What are
Yeah.
you watching right now?
What am I watching right now? I just got done watching on Prime. Oh my god, I can't think of the title. What was that with Maggie Q? My goodness, shoot, I can't think of it right now. Oh, it was not Bosch. Wow. Okay. Well, there's Prime has a new series that stars Maggie Q. I'm
Okay,
sorry, I can't promote the title. For some
that's
reason, it
okay.
escapes me, but it's named after her character. I think it's Bard or something like that.
Okay,
And a detective drama, but it was really well done, very well written. And it was, sometimes with these series, you got to make a time investment. So I'm always like, do I want to? Because there's 8 episodes here. I don't think I have 8 hours right now. That's why I like movies because I know it's going to start and finish in this period of time. Done. But that one I was like skeptical about, and but it was rather good. I've been looking at Peacemaker season
oh,
two.
it's Peacemaker. I still haven't seen Peacemaker. I've seen Peacemaker 1, but I haven't
Yeah.
seen Peacemaker 2. Is it as good?
So far so good. Yes, James Gunn has mastered that genre and
Yeah,
style.
that's his
Um,
world.
that's definitely his world. I feel like, yeah, so far, I'd say it started off great. I have an
Okay.
idea where they're trying to go, but I don't want to say anything because
Okay.
I could maybe give my interpretation.
All right. I'm
I
gonna
I
watch
think
it, definitely.
yeah,
Since I haven't done it.
yeah. I think because he took over DC and they started over. I think somehow this is connected into rebooting that whole universe. Put it like
Yeah.
that. So it's been great. I let me see what else have I been watching on Apple. I think we just what is it? The Foundation took a look at
Okay. Is that good?
sci-fi. Uh, it's a smart sci-fi,
Okay.
and you have to really pay attention to what's going on and what's
Okay.
being said. So it's one of those. It's not one of those you just put in the background. You will get lost, right? But you got to pay attention to what's been happening. So
Okay.
I've been invested for a bit. Uh, that's what comes to mind really quickly.
What's the
Um,
last film you saw in the theater?
the last film, actually, that's easy. That was a few weeks ago. That was Honey with what's her name? Margaret Qualley.
I haven't seen it.
Um, it I like her performance.
That's the Coen
Um,
brothers, right?
gosh, I didn't. You know what I did? I went to the theater because sometimes I do this, or I like to do this. I just pop into the theater, whatever the next time slot is, whatever's playing, I just go see it without any kind of interpretation, expectations, anything. I just pop in, sit down, enjoy the film. And it's great sometimes when you're going in not having any expectations about anything. So um, I'm not even sure who directed the film. I can tell you her performance was great. It's just that it feels like there's more movie.
Mm.
It
Interesting.
just, the way it ended, I'm like, wait, are they going to pick up with another film? Or did it just stop there because they couldn't get
Yeah.
it didn't feel like it concluded. It's like the story's going to
Yeah.
continue on.
It's yeah, the Cohen brothers.
Is it?
Well, one of the Cohen brothers, Ethan Cohen, because they
Okay.
split up. Same thing with like the Safdie brothers. They're kind of
Okay. All right. So then I did enjoy it. I enjoyed
yeah.
the
I want to see
Chris.
him.
Yeah, I enjoyed the acting in it. And I mean, the all of the male roles were slightly but I was going to say the guys come across either idiotic or jerks, but that is the perspective of the character in her
Right.
world, right? But overall, the acting, her acting has been really good. I do enjoy her work as
She's
well.
good.
But yeah, Honey, believe it or
Honey,
not. So,
honey,
but
yeah, yeah. Honey,
yeah,
honey,
Honey,
don't is what.
yeah, Honey,
Unless it's
don't.
changed in the. Sometimes they change it in
Uh,
different
uh,
countries, so that's why
yeah,
it
you could
might
be right.
be honey.
And that's why I like to just pop into theaters every so often and
Mhm.
just I don't pick a title. I just pick the next time, whatever it is. Boom, I'll go in. And sometimes you get the best surprises like that, right?
Yeah, I want to see that movie Caught Stealing. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
That's the Darren Aronofsky film. I'm hoping to see that maybe this weekend, but
This week, okay.
I don't know what to see. So, anyways, how can people reach you?
I'm real easy. You can find me uh, online, any social platform at Jaze Bordeaux, or visit you visit me at jazbordeaux.com. And that's pretty easy to find online.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the DMF.
Yeah.
Welcome to the DMF. I'm Justin Younts. This is part two.